The number one thing holding you back from the success you want is the story you tell yourself about why you're either not worthy of it or why you aren't there already. Now, each of us also has what is called a core story, a story that was birthed younger in life, normally between the ages of 3 to 7 years old. This core story has been on autopilot, and it's been keeping us entrained in similar energy dynamics from when we were kids. And the thing is until I became aware of which of these core stories was a part of my life and was holding me back, I remained stuck. I was working my 9-to-5 job. I didn't know how to move forward. I didn't feel worthy enough. I didn't feel like there was, like I had enough. I was qualified enough. I didn't have the right editing equipment. I was worried about what other people thought. It all stemmed back to the core story I had that was keeping me trapped in similar energy dynamics from when I was a kid. So in this episode, what we're going to do is we are going to look at the core story that we may have that is holding us back from achieving success, from achieving more money, more abundance, the relationship you desire, and we're going to look at how we can dismantle it so we can start to show up in a more powerful way so that we can actually achieve whatever our goals are. We can stop sabotaging ourselves and really come into who we came here to be. When I look back at 2017 version of Aaron, which, as you all know, if you've been listening to my videos for a while, I was working that 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes. I wore a suit to work. I went in every day. I worked 40 hours a week. And I knew I wanted to be on YouTube, but I didn't know exactly what to do. And that was one of the things too. When it comes to achieving success, a lot of times, especially people that go through a spiritual awakening, they learn different concepts that are very intriguing and do work to a certain extent, but end up holding them back if they overemphasize it. So for me, that was think a better thought. It was just keep thinking about it, keep visualizing it. And I was doing that. And I was thinking about it, and I was visualizing it, and I was visualizing meeting famous public speakers like Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, all these people. But guess what? I just remained in that 9-to-5 job. I actually met Jack Canfield and told him, I'm going to do what you do one day. Super tacky, but now I am. Funny how it's all come full circle. But when I was, it was like I wanted to be put on. I wanted to manifest things by being given it. And that was also, I think, one of the traps of the spiritual mentality is it's a gift in one way because sometimes we limit ourselves by thinking the only way we can attract things is through money and through opportunities is a different way. Like, for example, my girlfriend, she lives in a very cool situation in San Diego. She lives in a house that's like, there's this really nice house, and then she lives in like a casita type house behind this really nice house that's in this really great location. And she was synchronistically attracted to that, you know, and also at the same time, all the furniture in it, she's just now buying her own furniture and stuff. But prior to that, it was like just given to her. It was like, in a way, like it's an opportunity. She was paying for it, but that's one way she went about manifestation. She was in the right place at the right time. She's definitely in flow. And that's one benefit to that kind of mentality. On the other side of that, though, is the way I went about it, where I was taking zero action, but I was working my 9-to-5 job, and I didn't know exactly what to do. I felt stuck. I felt blocked. Then, though, one thing that I realized is I had that download that I've mentioned to you guys before, where make a video a day on YouTube and your life will transform in a year. I was living at my dad's house, and I had so many reflections in my life at that point, too, that I wasn't where I wanted to be. About a year prior to that, not even a year, I broke up. An ex-girlfriend and I broke up, and she moved back to California. And then I was working that 9-to-5 job still. I moved back in with my dad at that point, and he told me, I told him I wanted to go on full-time on YouTube, and he was going to allow me to live there and go for it. But also at the same time, I was working my 9-to-5 job. That's one thing, by the way, that a lot of people confuse, like going full-time, doing what they love. You don't have to just completely burn the bridge. You can, but you can also do both. And it is a little bit harder to do both. Depends on what you define as hard. But for me, I had the 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, and I was making 7 videos a week, editing 7 videos a week, posting 7 videos a week, every single week. And I did that for a couple months until, 6 months until I went full-time. Not even 5 months. I started in February 2017, And by August of 2017, I'd put in my 2 weeks and I was done with my 9-to-5 job. Now, the biggest thing though that was holding me back was also I just didn't start. There was a story that was holding me back from starting. And many of us, we have stories for everything. Stories, another word for belief. I had a belief or a story that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't credible enough. I'm living at my dad's house, so I don't have the actual reflection of what I'm talking about self-help stuff, but I'm living at my dad's house. How contradicting is that? And because of that, I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I was faking it. I was faking it till they make it. And I was also, for a long time, I had a story about taking action. That action was low vibrational. I didn't want to, there's a point that you get to when you're really frustrated with where you are, where you just make a choice that you change your story. You then say, I'm done with this. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to figure it out. And when I started making those daily videos, that's when that story started to shift. So there's a story that you have right now in your life that is equal to, you've decided at a point that your reality, which is equal to your inner reality of what you believe you deserve, you've agreed that that's what you deserve. If you look at the books, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, if any of you read that book, awesome book. And what that book basically talks about is we all have an agreement. We have an agreement about life, about how reality works. And our reality is like a direct reflection of those agreements. And I was agreeing to a reality where I went into work every day. I wore a suit. I stood around for about 3 or 4 hours without having a single customer. And then eventually I'd get a customer and then I would help them. And then I agreed that I would get paid 5.75% commission and that's what I was worth. And then I would do that. And then I would stand around for another 2 hours. And it was like this cycle. And I did that for 4.5 years. And before that, I did that for 5 years, working at Nordstrom's. And one of the harsh realities of this is that we've agreed at a certain point in the past that whatever we're doing, that's what we're worthy of. And that then becomes our reality from that moving forward. Now, one of the times my life really changed as well is when I started making the daily videos. It wasn't just that I had a couple videos that started to go viral and it was even one video that went viral. It was a couple videos started to do well. I started to grow. It wasn't just the algorithm that changed my life and the new people coming in. It was my self-image. My identity shifted when I started making daily videos. And when they started to grow, I realized I am a YouTuber or I am someone that works hard. Now, this is something I eventually had to shed. But for many of you, the story that you're telling yourself to why you shouldn't take action is actually probably what is holding you back. This and what I represent and kind of what I teach, it's practical stuff. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that if you just think about it and you imagine it and you go and you buy a lottery ticket that you can win. And I'm not saying it can't happen because I'm sure it has happened before where I've seen people talk about it but it's such a disempowerment, from my personal opinion, unless you're actually passionate about winning the lottery. Some people are. Maybe that's their passion, or maybe that's their dopamine hit from gambling. I don't know. But for me, if I were to win the lottery, it'd be completely counterintuitive from what my purpose actually is. I would not be making videos intending to help people if I'd won $50 million back in 2017, or even $5 million. There's the lottery trap where most people end up doing drugs. They get caught up. Everyone, they say yes. They don't know how to manage their money because they haven't become the person that can manage the money. And realize that as well. When I used to imagine the version of me now, I would imagine this version of me now and be like, wow, if I have this much money in the bank, I could buy a Lamborghini. I could buy this car. I could do this. I could travel here. I could buy this kind of house. And I look at myself now, and because I've become the person that I have now, I have the ability, not trying to brag, but I have the ability right now to go buy a Lamborghini. I have the ability right now to go buy another house. I have the ability to go do things that I would have wanted to do back in the day, but now that I've become this kind of person, it's natural for me. And if anything, I see it differently. I see that as in a way, a burden to have this car that's jerking me everywhere I go. And when I was working the 9-to-5 job, why would I even wanted the Lamborghini? Because if I had the Lamborghini, I would have looked cool to my freaking friends. I would have looked like somebody because I didn't feel good enough already. And that's why I would have gotten it and I would have felt better about myself. So when you start doing the inner work too, your desires also start to change. Even as I approached the 1 million YouTube subscriber plaque, which was in my mind visualization for so long. Why don't I have that already? What I originally happened is I realized that to me represented my sense of self-worthiness. I didn't feel worthy growing up because I got treated like shit from 7 to 15 years old with the whole ex-stepmom situation. And because I didn't feel worthy, guess what? I could then prove people wrong. I could then get the validation that I didn't get growing up. I wanted to make people proud. And the interesting thing about this is that once you get it and once you become that kind of person, it's natural for you. And you don't want it the way that you think you do. When I started making those daily videos, it changed, something in my self-image changed to where it's like, I am the kind of person that makes daily videos. It was easy for me to make daily videos. And it's about realizing what would your story be if you were that ideal identity that you decided to be. So what would that version of you, what would that story be? And for me, I can become very aware that and also kind of play the advocate where you can look in on yourself and see the different aspects of your story. I don't mean to be rhyming as much as I am, by the way. I did it once and then it just kept happening. So when I was working the 9-to-5 job, it was very clear that my story was that I'm worthy of working a 9-to-5 job. I believe I have to be told what to do, or I'm at least comfortable with people telling me what to do. Like with what I know now, I could never, ever work a 9-to-5 job again. One, because I'm not passionate about it. Some of you guys actually, there's nothing wrong with working a 9-to-5 job. But with what I've learned, with what I know, I could never do it again. And it's because my identity has shifted to a place. Not that I'm better than anybody, but it's like that energy dynamic, my story is now of a point to where I would not allow that into my reality. I would figure something else out. And you see this, by the way, with certain people. Like I hear in Gary Vaynerchuk, even my buddy Victor, who has a YouTube channel and stuff before that, he was a personal trainer, which is kind of like having your own business in a way. He had his own personal training business. And then before that, I think he grew medical marijuana legally in Michigan. And his address is 702. I'm just kidding. But he did that. And he always kind of owned his own business in a way. So his identity was of such that he like figures it out. You know, the only reason I think I was able to have a 9-to-5 job as long as I did is because it was a sales commission job. And I could, in a way, control an aspect of my business. Like if I hustled harder or if I aligned more divinely, then I would make more abundance, money. But if I was lazy, never went on the sales floor, I wouldn't do as well. But I liked that somewhat ability of control. It was somewhat ability of control my paycheck. And I was talking to my dad and his buddy about this last night because he was here in Austin about a week ago. And he was like, yeah, my dad always tells me, he's like, I'm so proud of you, but I don't understand it, but I'm proud of you. He always says that about YouTube or growing online or whatever. And I remember I was talking to him and his buddy, and I was, my dad's a fire investigator who retired with a pension, who still is doing like other versions of fire investigation for like an insurance company. But he loves what he does, but also he likes the security of the pension. He likes the security of the benefits paid for. He likes that. But to me, I see that as that's a security for him. What security from him is boring to me. Because I'm a little bit more risk adverse. I'm also younger, I guess, right? So most kids our age, or, we're a little bit more risk tolerant. And even like when you talk about investments, I look at my buddy Victor. He's much more conservative with his investments, where he also has 3 kids and a wife. So he thinks about things differently because he values security. His story about security and money is different than mine, to where I still have that. I do have a level of security and where I like feeling safe, where I have certain money, I guess, that's invested in stocks, for example. But then also I have money that's invested in cryptocurrency. And I have quite a bit in cryptocurrency because I believe in it or whatever, but it is much more risky. It could literally go up like this much or go down this much within like a day. Whereas with the stocks, it's more of a wave that just in general, the S&P goes up about 10% a year or 12% a year. But the reason I'm sharing this is because we all have different stories. We all have different beliefs. But the thing that's holding you back from achieving success is the story that you're telling yourself about why you don't deserve it, by why it's not here now, your story about money, your story about taking action. So when I look back to the version of me in 2017, another thing that I could clearly see is that another thing, and this is something I just became aware of today, by the way, and we'll get into the 3 core stories here in a minute. But this is something that I feel like I want to mention because I'm here right now making this episode with, I think, more passion than normal because I haven't looked in my phone today. Now, let me preface this. I'm looking into my phone right now. As I talk to you right now, this is an iPhone. Now, here's a funny thing. So many people that want to be on YouTube, that want to share their message with the world, they hold themselves back because they tell themselves a story that I don't have the right camera equipment. I don't have the right editing equipment. Guess what? I'm using my iPhone. This here, recording this right now, if you're on the podcast, then this is also going on the main YouTube channel. This is an iPhone. So I am technically looking at my iPhone right now. But the funny thing is that held me back for so long. I needed the right camera equipment. I didn't know how to edit. I just started, and I started editing, and I figured it out. In my first video ever, go on YouTube. You can proof check this. My first video ever says, insert title here in the middle of my face. Because I didn't let it get to me to say, oh, I don't know how to edit, so I can't start. I simply started. And the thing that's holding you back is there's a story to why you're not starting. If you would simply start, you'd create this new momentum for yourself, and you would put yourself on a new timeline. I started, and I got through the excuses, and I cared what people thought, but I started anyways. Step into it, realizing the fear is going to be there, no matter how long you wait. But as you start taking action, the fear goes away. Yes, I'm sure there's still a part of me that cares somewhat what people think about me, but it's much, much, much less than 2017. And even though I'm looking at my phone right now, where I was going with that is, when it comes to success, I'm a firm believer that it does take a certain amount of focus. It takes focus and it takes alignment to get into a flow state. Now, for me, back in 2017, I started making those daily videos. I became super passionate about one thing: making videos. I made a video every single day. I edited that video every single day. I posted that video every single day and scheduled it for the next day, and I made a thumbnail every single day. I did all 4 of those. And then I did them every single day for years. That was my one thing. There's another guy on YouTube. His name's Graham Stevenson. He's a finance channel. He makes videos that are on finance. I can tell that he loves YouTube. Mr. Beast, have you ever heard of Mr. Beast on YouTube? He loves YouTube. All he focuses on is YouTube. And you know what he says, by the way? He does kind of say this, I guess, but when it comes to Mr. Beast, I saw an interview with him where he would just talk for an hour and a half about all he wants to do is make the best videos. That's all he wants to do is make the best videos possible. And now he's got a huge production studio. He does these crazy things, for his videos. He's going to be the number 1 YouTuber, and he almost is the number 1 YouTuber. He's growing like crazy. He does crazy cool things. He's giving back and does philanthropy and stuff. He just wants to give, and he wants to make the best videos possible. Now, a side effect of him making the best videos possible is being one of the number 1 YouTubers. But that's the one thing he focuses on. That Graham Stevenson guy in the finance space, the money space, he just loves making videos. I can tell. And I see part of my old self also, because I used to just be passionate about making videos. That's all I wanted to do, was to make videos. I would learn thumbnails. I think Graham Stevenson still does. He makes his own thumbnails for his videos. He does now I pay someone to do mine because I'm not as passionate about that anymore. Although I bet you if I put more of my own energy into it, maybe it would do better. because there's something there with that. But what I realized for myself, and this is where I'm getting with this, I have been so addicted and numb from watching Netflix. Just going to be completely honest about this. I've watched Narcos, Game of Thrones, Vikings, Narcos Colombia, Narcos Mexico, so I guess that's 2. What else? I've watched Squid Games. I've watched all these shows, and I would just look forward to the end of the night sitting down and watching these shows, and sometimes I'd watch 3 episodes of Narcos. Last night, I had crazy dreams that I was in I haven't seen Narcos in a week and a half, but I know it's like completely programmed my subconscious mind in a way. Not that it's taken power over me. I had dreams last night that I was in some reality where I was with machine guns trying to take out some Narcos cartel, and I was going through this building with somebody else, and I was like, somebody was trying to kill me and shoot me, and their gun wasn't going off, and I was like, oh, I'm supposed to live a little bit longer. And then eventually, though, I got shot twice, and then I died. And then I went into another dream. It was so fascinating to me how similar a lot of my dreams were to the show Narcos. For literally 60 hours or something. 3 seasons, an hour an episode, 10 episodes. What is that? 10 times. That is 60 episodes between 2 different series of Narcos. 60 hours of Narcos I watched. What I'm saying is there's like a dopamine. There's dopamine that is released, and I have noticed that my creativity drops when my dopamine levels are so strung out on things, especially Netflix. Now, here's what happened yesterday. Yesterday was my Zen day where I was like, oh, I'm not going to make a video. I'm not going to do a lot of work. I'm not even going to go to the gym. I'm just going to go do a little cardio and go in the sauna. It's going to be my yin day. I get on my phone, and I'm literally on my phone like all day long. And I'm like aware that I'm like numbing myself out of my phone, but I'm still doing it. I'm so addicted to my damn phone. And I could tell that that's siphoning my creativity, is siphoning my energy into my purpose, into my vision. And that is one thing that I know is holding me back from my own creativity. So one thing that I'm decided to do differently is I have not gone on my phone today, except for, I guess I'm currently looking into my phone right now by making this, but it's just the video, And I am declaring that I'm going to be in my phone a lot less, and I'm going to be more creative. It's like the more dopamine numb you are from television shows and just video games and like even just like masturbation and all that stuff, the less creativity you have. That's just what I realized in my life. So what I do is I moderate that stuff, and then my creativity goes up, and then I have more energy to focus on what I'm actually passionate about. Which whatever I'm passionate about is going to do better. When I was focused on YouTube, that's all I did. Didn't have a girlfriend or anything too. Like that's how strict I was on my boundaries. Friends wanted to hang out? Nope. A lot of times I'd say no because I have this vision. I have this thing that, yes, in a way, it can become a dopamine addiction. I remember when I first met my friend Victor and his wife and his kids, and they met me and they're like, damn, he works a lot because they have 3 kids and a wife, Victor does, and he'd be hanging out with them. And when he was hanging out with them, I was at my house on my computer studying YouTube videos, studying marketing, just constantly maybe even dopamine addicted to that success. But that was, I think, a little bit, I guess we can justify that because that was making me more money. The more I focused on marketing, the more I focused on having business funnels and courses and making more videos, the more money I made. I remember watching this dopamine expert talk about like how our society, but it depends on the way that we look at dopamine too, because like, for example, there's no doubt about it, Kobe Bryant was a dopamine addict. There's no doubt about it that Michael Jordan was a dopamine addict. But our society praises that. They were addicted to winning. They were addicted to getting better. Kobe was like a workaholic. But at the same time, if he loved it and he's passionate about it, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing unless I guess it leaks into other areas of life. So for example, if Kobe had zero relationship with his wife and his kids' relationship he didn't have a great relationship with, then I could see that as a problem. And then it's a challenge, right? But we do in society reward. You look at Mr. Beast and his probably dopamine addiction to his YouTube channel. From a certain level, it could look like it's somewhat toxic. Maybe he's just wanting more and more and more and it's never enough. But on the other side of it, he loves it. Nothing wrong with that. It's finding this fine line. So what I'm vowing to do is to put my dopamine back in my YouTube channel so I'm addicted to my business again. Just kidding. Kind of. There's, I think, things, dopamine's not bad. Dopamine's not a bad thing. Dopamine, though, if we're not aware of it, will use us. And it will grow like things that maybe we don't intend to grow. The whole point of video games, by the way, there are people and psychologists, psychologists that get paid to get you addicted to games. I'm in Duolingo right now trying to learn Spanish. I can tell there are little psychological tricks they use to get me in every day, sending me notifications. Don't break your 17-day streak. Keep learning and do this little, and then every time you get this thing, bing, get this, oh, mi abuela, bing, oh, entonces, bing, just like bing, bing, just always giving me this dopamine rush so that I stay addicted to learning Spanish. Not a bad thing to be addicted to, I guess, right? I guess addiction has a negative connotation, but you guys get what I'm saying. Now, what is the first, I know I've gone off on a rant here, but I'm really encouraging you to just start to become aware of where your energy is going, and do you have any dopamine addictions that are going to negative things? Become aware of where your energy is, and that can transform everything. Now, the first core story that many of us have that holds us back is a story that goes back to childhood that normally relates to abandonment, being left, leaving someone behind. What if you could become successful, but what if you were to become successful, you're afraid you'd leave your family behind? You're afraid you'd leave your friends behind. Because when I became successful, I was only focusing on my business. Some of that was like my energy did kind of shift a little bit to where I wasn't hanging around with friends as much. But guess what? I was more in alignment than ever. But the abandonment stuff, and especially for me, because I had a very strong people pleaser mentality, wanting people's validation is part of that people pleaser. So that was a part of my childhood that I think held me back from actually success. Was I cared so much what people thought. When I put out my first ever YouTube video, you want to know what I did? Called my mom and said, "Mom, please like my video on Facebook." I was afraid it wasn't going to only get like 1 or 2 likes, and that was embarrassing to me. I really cared what people thought of me. And I can see now that as I've gone through these different levels of success and transformation, I can look back and see that a lot of my energy has changed, but that core wound is something that I still work with to this day of not feeling worthy. I remember when I started making videos, I'd watch like Ralph Smart, Teal Swan, Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield. I'd watch all these people, and I would think, some of them could just talk in front of a camera and people listen. I'm not good enough to do that. I would have to have crazy cool editing. I'd have to have cool sound effects. I would experiment with different things, but instead I just started just talking to a camera. And almost all my videos are me just talking to a damn camera. And now there's over 100 million views on the channel because I just started. That's what I want to really put your attention on too. If you just start, you figure it out as you go. But the story that you want to look at is the abandonment wound. And realize that at a certain point, realize this. By you not starting your blog, by you not asking that person out, by you not moving forward with that career that you really want, by you not doing that, you are already abandoning yourself. You think that it's like you're afraid of rejection, but really the rejection already started because you're abandoning your true self from doing and being who you really came here to be. You came here to be bold. You came here to step into this new, this aspect of yourself that is the most in alignment. And the thing is the funny paradox of the abandonment wound is when we're afraid of being abandoned and we're afraid of rejection, we've already abandoned ourselves. We're not being the true polarized version of ourselves, and therefore we've already done that. So the key is to stop abandoning the self and to realize that if you were abandoned as a kid, emotionally or physically, from a parent or from a family member or from a friend, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. A lot of times, almost all the time, it was their stuff they were dealing with. They just maybe couldn't love to a certain extent, or maybe they had their own stuff going on. So the abandonment wound is one of them that is holding you back. But if you realize it's not your fault, you can then stop abandoning yourself, and you really have to make the choice to stop abandoning yourself. That's what I had to do. And after I did that, it was like so much of my life began to change. The other aspect of this is I felt so much shame and unworthiness when it comes to love. I felt so much shame. I felt like, why could anybody love me? I had so many blocks when it came to love too. I was like, here I had friends that were telling me like, you have huge YouTube clout and you have this and you have that, but it's like you have trouble, you have blocks. Then I felt even worse. I felt like, oh, I shouldn't have these problems, this shame, but I do. It was all a reflection though of how I felt about myself. And I had to realize that when I was growing up, my mom or my dad's emotional unavailability wasn't my fault. The fact that my parents divorced wasn't my fault. Even like ex-girlfriends that it didn't work out with, I'd sometimes get out of a relationship and be like, yeah, that didn't work out because I'm not good enough. I wasn't enough. I was too this or too that. I can look back now and see it wasn't my fault. It's not because I'm not worthy. It's not because I just wasn't enough. I can see that also that was familiar with certain childhood dynamics growing up, so that was comfortable. But I have had to become very honest with myself and then realize that. And then the next key, by the way, to attracting love is like opening up your heart. I had to stop judging other people. I had to open up my heart. And I realized I was like subconsciously judging people I'd go on dates with and stuff like that. I had to start opening up my heart, and I was also opening up my heart to myself, starting looking at the things I appreciate about myself. And I realized like, pretty cool person. Not because of the YouTube videos I make and stuff like that, but like, as I started to look at these different aspects of myself, I started to feel more worthy. And as I started to feel more worthy, it's like people started, they started responding to me differently. My energy was more magnetic, I guess. Now, when it comes to success, it's the same thing. Realize you're worthy for just simply being you. And that's the second core wound. It's around worthiness. And the way that you feel more worthy is you let go of the shame that came from childhood with thinking there's something wrong with you or thinking that you're not worthy. We have rules in ourselves that say, I am worthy once XYZ happens. Once I have 1 million YouTube subscribers, once I do this, once I have the perfect relationship, then I'll feel worthy. But we're prolonging our own sense of like happiness. The funny thing is we can feel it whenever we choose. We have the emotions within us to feel worthy now. And if we felt worthy now, then those things would actually come faster. The challenge of this is that a lot of times we do things that are a means to an end instead of doing things for an end of itself. Like if I were to, like Mr. Beast, he wants to make the best videos possible. He's passionate about making the best videos possible. He loves that process. And that's why, how he feels about it is reflected out and people feel that energy. Now, in the same way, it's like if I was going to work every day selling women's shoes and I was like, I'm going to help these customers because it's going to make my paycheck good, people would feel that and I wouldn't do as well. But if I went in wanting to connect with people and wanting to enjoy the process and I wasn't attached to outcome, I would do so much better. If I make videos I'm actually passionate about, that I enjoy making, you can feel it on the other hand and you listen longer and you're more you feel that passion from me. But if I'm just making the video and I'm like, I just got to get this video done so I can go get on this call with Victor or do this or do that, then guess what? You could feel that too. So doing things for an end of itself helps, but like realizing that you're worthy for just being you. You're not worthy once you're in the perfect relationship. You're not worthy once you're doing what you love for a living. You're worthy just for being you because you exist. Bashar talks a lot about this. When it comes to this, everything in our reality has a purpose. The bees, the flowers, the trees, the grass, all the people, everyone has a purpose. And creation does not make mistakes. And if we say, I'm not worthy, we're saying, well, I see how everything else is worthy. Worthy means worth and value. Everything else has value. Except for me. I'm the one thing that's not worthy. It's a significance play is what that is. I am so significant because I'm the one thing that's not worthy in life, but everything else is worthy in life. So a lot of times you can look back to your childhood trauma and maybe see that maybe you didn't feel like you were seen and you want to be seen. And I can see that a lot of times, that can also propel people to great success too, that trauma. I'm reading a book by Will Smith right now called Will. And it's interesting because a lot of his trauma from when he was a kid, from his dad that was like a military sergeant, just like my ex-stepmom, very similar. He felt like he had to be the pleaser. He felt like he had to make everyone happy, and his defense mechanism was making people laugh, comedy. So that's what he did. And he wanted people's validation and approval, and that propelled him to become one of the best, like, number one actors. But now he's realizing, because he wrote a book, so he's realizing that maybe it wasn't completely worth it, or there's aspects of it that, shadows of it that he can become aware of. But there's these defining moments when we're kids that really show us why we are the way that we are, because there's a moment when we're kids when you decide that this is what something means. For Will, it was, in his book he talks about it, but he had his dad that was an alcoholic that was beating the shit out of his mom, and when he was doing that, he had like two younger siblings or something, maybe at least one younger sibling, and then maybe an older sister, younger sister, I can't remember. But when that happened, his mom got hit, and he couldn't stand up to his dad, and he had the opportunity. And his other siblings would just stand up to his dad and get the shit beat out of him. But he always thought he was a coward because he wouldn't stand up to his dad. He didn't stand up for his mom when his mom was getting beat. So he made a choice that I'm a coward. And now he would do whatever he could to hide being a coward. If he made people laugh, if he made his dad laugh, he wouldn't get in trouble. He wouldn't get beat. Everyone in the house was like safe. But these core stories define us. I can see when I look back at even my own childhood, just like there's certain things that happened where I decided that maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe the ex-stepmom thing for 7 to 15 years old and no one protecting us. Maybe we weren't good enough. Like why, if we were good enough, maybe someone would have stepped in and protected us and we wouldn't have had to like experience her so much, But maybe I decided in that moment. And then also my ex-stepmom being such a narcissist and such like an army sergeant, I remember one time I did stand up to her, and when I did, I got a lot of shame and I got a lot of trouble. She was beating the crap out of me, and I like pushed her back. And I like stood up like this, and then she looked at my dad and was like, "You're going to let him do that?" And then I got like even more trouble. And then in that moment too, I was like, "Oh, he chose her over us," And I was like probably 12 or 13 at the time. But I can see how the moments was like, don't lead. And even in Will Smith's book, he's like, if his dad used to always tell him, if there are two leaders, we die. Because he's from the army and stuff. So maybe if there was two people trying to lead, we'd all die. You need one leader. So then Will wouldn't lead or didn't feel safe leading, because if he did, they'd all die. And I can see how that's played out in his relationship in some ways too, in his relationship dynamics and just his own life. But in general, that's something that we can become aware of. What is your core story that's holding you back? Is it the abandonment wound? Is it you don't feel worthy? The third core wound has to do with trust. And a lot of times we either won't trust ourselves, we'll need other people's validation or approval, and it's a trust. I can't trust, therefore I have to control my life. And I know in my life especially, I have a mix of all three of these that I've had to deal with, but controlling life, controlling business, controlling other people, it's something that we do because we feel like we can't trust the natural flow of the universe of our life. And it stems from core trauma where maybe your dad cheated on your mom cheated on your dad. Maybe your dad or mom said they were going to do something for you when you're young and then they didn't. Realize once again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault your mom left your dad left your mom. It's not your fault that they maybe even physically abandoned. It's not your fault that maybe you got like traumatized or abused. It's not your fault. And by realizing that, you begin to listen to some of that core story and you begin to realize that you are worthy. And then as you look at these things, you could start to just become aware in your daily physical life now. What are your beliefs about money, success? What are your beliefs about love? What are your stories about these? The stories and beliefs are the same thing. And then as you become aware of them, you can then see that a lot of these are on autopilot from childhood. And then as you become aware of them, you can then rewrite them. You can make a new choice about who you are. You can start wiring in a brand new version of you. You can become aware that maybe you're releasing a lot of your dopamine through pornography or watching, like playing video games or Netflix or certain types of music or like drugs or alcohol. Like as you become aware of these things, you can then make new choices about who you are. And then as you begin to commit to what you're actually passionate about, whatever that is, and if you don't know what it is, make it your full-time job to figure out what it is. Start experimenting, read different books, try different things, get out of the unknown. As you get into the unknown and out of the known, magic happens. So this is something that will completely transform your life. Now, in a recent video I did, I talk about I call the shift experience. It's a 6-step process that if you apply this year, 2022, or whenever, it will completely transform your life. It's one of the most powerful videos I've ever made. Watch this video. I promise you, by the end of it, you will have shifted into a new version of you. This episode, I'm going to show you the 6 steps that you can use to completely transform your life in 2022. I'm sure you've noticed 2021 has been a massive year of shadow work, a massive year of letting go.